Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Battle Brothers Season 3. As today, I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. If you're a beast and also happen to be prowling the Witchmount Hills, which I assume most of you are not, but you never know. That said, obviously we're not expecting much in the way of really challenging fights today, at least not for this part. But we will hopefully get some more pelts. Also, an easy bandit fight. Yeah, we'll probably do that too, but we'll try to keep it quick. Add a little extra loot to this leisurely expedition. Oh, snap. Okay, well, now we've got a full-on keep, which appears to be bandits. And a nest of webnecked. You know, that's something else the game really does feel like it could use. Stationary beast outposts, you know, like nests or lairs. I feel like beasts just in general could use a bit more love. Add some more variety to the individual types and subtypes. As the raiders arrive in Witchmount Hills, they find themselves veritably deluged by all manner of dire threats. Though, of course, none they can't handle, as swiftly evidenced by Tommy's brutal takedown. The first of many feral foes to fall. Even as Mark flays another trio. Arrow opening fire as well. Finishing off another. No, Seymore. Those aren't normal doggos. You don't have to pull your punches. Giannis slops a limb. Rook putting down two more. Mal bisects a snout. Which honestly sounds pretty grotesque. I'm kind of sorry I said that. And the fight rages on. The pack pawing ineffectually at the raider line. Wow, yeah, they didn't even bring out any ferals this time around. So they don't even have Overwhelm. I do debate sometimes whether, once we're this deep in a series, we should just start kind of skipping over the grunt fights. And just focus on the tougher ones. You know, not cut them out entirely, but maybe like show us going in, then cut to the end screen so you can see the kill count updates. But I don't know, I mean, cutting out that much content also feels kind of weird, given the nature of the platform and all. Not to mention just the way I generally normally do the series. Though even doing it normally, this is like a 4 or 5 minutes fight tops. So maybe it's relatively harmless to leave it in regardless. If nothing else, it does at least show how much the raiders have grown. And of course has the itemized individual kill counts as kills are actually doled out. Rather than the more impersonal touch of simply showing the final scoreboard. I don't know. Something to at least consider, I suppose. And of course, I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. Especially considering that we've got like 2 or 3 more mook fights right after this. Outpost might be a challenge, though. Fingers crossed on that one. And yeah, that was like 5 minutes. Webneck next. With the wolf pack unpacked, the raiders soon spied spiders, sprinting in pursuit despite their contract being all but fulfilled. They could afford a few more heads, and the silk was certainly tempting. Besides, what was this, another 5 minutes work? And oblivious to their impending extermination, the arachnids advanced. The raiders rushed in, blades a-whackin'. Trip putting out an eye, but many more glaring in its stead. Arrow claimed the first kill. And the second as well. Sigmar sprinting in, setting himself up for a sweeping strike. With Random claiming a kill while he still could. And the spider swarm continued unabated. A few unfortunate raiders once again festooned. Certainly not the first time. But no real harm done. I suppose even now, Webneck are still technically deceptively dangerous. They're not really like an alpha strike sort of creature. They're more... They're in it for the long haul. They try to wear you down with exhaustion, poison, and reinforcements. Obviously not much of a threat now, but it could still be dangerous under the right circumstances. But obviously we're okay this time out. It is, I suppose, a good reason to focus on armor over nimble. DOTs are sort of the bane of nimble builds. Folks like Giannis, Mal, Cetrus, Seymore, they're much safer in this sort of fight, since the spiders are never likely to get through their plate. Whereas characters like Zarmal, you know, if they get webbed and then bitten a time or two, they could actually theoretically take some pretty serious damage. You know, not from the bites, but from the multiple stacks of poison. Webneck could also be pretty dangerous if you ever encountered them alongside something else, which, you know, doesn't really happen, but I could certainly see them fitting in with, say, goblins or something similar. Perhaps a Conan-style spider cult. We'll go ahead and smash up some eggs while we're here. Grab some extra XP. I'm actually not sure if that counts as a kill. I'll have to check that. And another notch on the Raider's belt. With minimal silk, my goodness. But at least we capped out our contract, and we've still got this outpost just over yonder. Let's get a closer look. Night fight, so let's adjust our line accordingly. With their current contract more or less complete, the Raiders doubled back to the center of Witchmount Hills, where they had spied the ruins of a moldering castle amidst a copse of trees. As they drew closer, they heard the sounds of raucous laughter, a merry band of miscreants caught off guard by their sudden emergence. The leader of said band, Casimir the Brigand, quickly barking commands to take these trespassers to task. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm not really seeing anything here we have to worry about. It is a shame you can't get, like, champion bandits. I mean, I know you can get champion hedge knights, master archers, swordsmen, etc. But those are already a fairly rare add-on to brigand encounters in the first place, so the odds of actually encountering a champion of those sorts is nearly non-existent. Not sure about bandit leaders. I don't think they can be champions, but I would have to double check. Finding nothing to fear, the Raiders rushed into yet another fray, albeit somewhat slowed by the excessive scrub brush. Not that it would buy these ruffians much reprieve. Perhaps an extra round or two. Hey, getting in a few hits, good for you. That'll be a mild inconvenience to repair. Thankfully, we have an ample source of unharvested bones on hand. One of the advantages of decking our nimble guys out in organic armor, I suppose. And before long, the first two were felled. Culled by Mal's cleaver. A third's head severed by Seymore. Knives out. We certainly don't need that armor, but we're more than happy to take it. Random sensed a scoundrel. Swiftly dispatched. Casimir went on the defensive. Yeah, once you see your opponents start stowing their real weapons and pulling out skinning knives, you probably know you're in trouble. Two more brigands out, bisected by blade. And there goes number 7. Made quite an impact. Drak drew blood first. Rondel run tween Casimir's ribs. The last loud on south met a random end. And then it was naught but the bandit leader himself. Still futilely flailing about, blade flashing as he swung it, back and forth, and yet never seemed to find purchase, never once struck a foe. And just like that, he embraced his inevitable end. He'd had a good run, probably. And if not, it was a bit late to fix that now. And thus he fell. Spitted upon Giannis's knife. Wow, with no level ups. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're not really pushing the envelope here. And we are all in legacy levels now, aside from Seymore and Giannis. Oh wow, hold on, that's a full-on noble sword. I think that's actually our first. We will definitely take that. So you know what? As easy as the fight was, I'll say that was actually worth our while. But that said, we are full up, so let's loop down to Loundstat. We'll unload our cart, and then from there we'll head east for Westerholtz, I think. Not because we really need to, but more just because I want to keep chipping away at our current ambition. Man, you know what this game could really use is a repair all option. having to manually go through your inventory to tag items for repair does become a bit time-consuming after a while. Especially since I still end up missing things. Oh, the things we do to eke out a few extra coins. And here we are, back in Loundstat. Been a while, but this is where it all began. Way back in episode 1. I suppose narratively that gives our remaining anatomists time to go report in. Ooh, extra fur padding. That's actually kind of fun. 1/3 reduction in armor pen damage. Yeah, we'll take that. Plus the poisoned oil and the reinforced net, why not? Really had hoped to get more from those web necks, but, you know, we'll take what we can get. Named weapon somewhere out west. Likely an orc camp. There's a lot of west from Loundstat. And, yeah. Local prices aren't great, but this is a good time to sell, so give me 1 sec. We'll liquidate the loot, then head for Westerholz. And we're back. Alright, let's get ourselves back to Agerstead, though, as aforementioned, we will take a quick detour to Westerholz. That'll be to grab some extra premium wood. And then from there, we'll shortcut through the Spiderwoods. With any luck, we might finally glimpse our first shot, though, you know, honestly, again, I'd be happy to settle for some more direwolves. Get our last few sets of armor properly kitted out. Ambush trading routes. But we'll still take the wood. Yeah, we can take the hit. No point in selling, though. We'll also grab a little food while we're here. And on we go. We'll push up through the rocky ridge here, I think about here. Having great stamina is quite important in the world of cell sorting, but it is clear that some men are far more capable of combating fatigue than others. Mclouj Schreckenbold is one such man, a fighter notorious for keeping steady breath long into a grueling battle. To you, this is nothing more than something of a curiosity, like when a man has a weird neck, huge hands, or a big hammer between his legs. But to King's Rook the Sergeant, it's something else entirely. He wishes to know how exactly one man can have such sturdy and powerful lungs, when his day-to-day life is of little difference compared to those around him. We're all fighters here, so how did it come to pass that this man can breathe at such a steady rate compared to the rest of us? Surely he contains an element that we do not, and I think I may be able to find that element. Wait, we are all fighters here? You wouldn't quite go that far, but you don't correct the anatomist. You ask him how exactly he'd study this matter. A simple dissection would not be a digression, all things considered, but I believe that Mclouj Schreckenbold would refuse the request. So that leaves me with one option, which is to study him intently, and see if I can replicate his strengths unto myself, through bone manipulation and careful incisions. I mean, Rook, I've got to say, man, that sounds like a pretty terrible idea, but it is technically what you hired me to help you facilitate, so I mean, I guess as long as it's not hurting one of the other raiders, you've got my go-ahead. Though I will say, this better work out, because I would hate to lose our last remaining bannerman. You tell the anatomist to go on doing whatever he wants to do. He takes out a quill pen and some books, and then follows that up with a pannier filled with metal tongs and scissors and scalpels. He checks them each for cleanliness, then lofts them up and goes over to Mclouj Schreckenbold. The sellsword responds with awkward stares. Eventually, the anatomist convinces the man to step into a tent with him. You keep an eye on the area in case the anatomist loses it and goes into a mad, egghead rampage. Eventually, King's Rook the Sergeant returns with a vial in hand, which he swirls around for a time, then drinks. He nods. Hopefully, this may work. I took great strains to my own body to really stress the lungs, followed by some ingredients courtesy of Malafnoy Schreckenbold himself. Then, naturally, additional elements which I shall not divulge to anyone ever, for if this works I may yet be the expert in its field. A true hero to the sciences, and absolutely have one up and over other anatomists. All right. Malafnoy appears from the tent now. You ask him what all happened. The man shrugs. I told him that I stretch a lot and have good posture, and that I do practice my breathing now and again. He refused those answers, convincing himself there must be some other way. Then he went full on nut bar with the tools he had and started, working on himself. Whatever he did looked mighty painful, but he took it in stride. Wait, you practice your breathing? I am now breathing manually. Oh no, Mal, what have you done? You've cursed us all. Though at least Rook got something out of it. Sort of. I mean, you certainly can't deny those are certainly some breathtaking results. Pierce lung is just temporary, right? That's not the collapsed lung, which is permanent. I should check that. It would be pretty wild if he went through all that just to end up with a single iron lung. Okay, he's out for a while, but it is not permanent. Thank goodness for that. Though now I wonder if that's something other anatomists can do. Like, could Verlin trigger that? Or is it only for our actual origin anatomists? In which case, I'm really sorry to have lost Rev and sidelined Eerie. Though I suppose, also, if it is, effectively his end cap event, it might be one of those special events that can only trigger, once every 999 in-game days, effectively making it once per campaign. In which case, it wouldn't matter how many of the OG anatomists we still had on hand. It would only trigger for one. And we've got tracks. Fingers crossed for Schrott, or Hex, or I'd say Lindworms, but I think they only appear further south. Okay, I mean, not what I was hoping for, but I'll take 17 direwolves. 17 strong, might include some ferals. I think we're good. As the raiders ambled back towards Agerstead, they paused to embark upon one last hunt. A particularly large pack of wolves, stalking Spiderwood. The flayed hides they had collected thus far were mostly set aside for their employer, but these would be for personal use. Or so Eerie said. The raiders knew better than to question it. As eccentric as he might be, the anatomist turned armorer did still have the occasional good idea or two. And they certainly weren't strangers to slaughtering a few strays. Not seeing any ferals, wow. So this might actually be another quick one. Relatively speaking. Back in early access, they originally envisioned direwolves as actual straight-up werewolves. The early concept art had more of a broader European bent than the Germanic flavor that they ultimately ended up going with. So instead of direwolves, it was lycanthropes, and then instead of night gaunts, it was actual European-style vampires. They had full-on fallen lords, you know, a step above your fallen heroes. Skeletal sorcerers, eldritch cultists, lizardmen. I'd love to see some of that stuff make it back in. Obviously, it would clash somewhat with the original Germanic folklore. But they've already kind of done that with the northern and southern expansions. You know, those added in other cultural flavors as well. And for an encounter like this one in particular, it would allow for further granularity. You know, rather than just having two tiers, direwolves and then feral direwolves. You could theoretically have normal wolves, direwolves, feral direwolves, and then just full-on werewolves as like the occasional legendary or named sort of foes. Leaders of the fiercest packs. Whereas things like the more conventional Western-styled vampires or Fallen Lords could just be tossed into the mix with the Wiedergangers. A distinctly separate flavor from your ancient dead. Though, obviously, at this point, Overhype's kind of got their hands full with other stuff. They've got the Menace early access launch coming up. And then beyond that, apparently, they're starting to put thoughts towards Battle Brothers too, so perhaps we'll see something like that there. Obviously a long, long ways out, but I'll be very curious to see what they do with it. Anyway, let's go ahead and chop these guys up. Bowman felled a flanker, impaling another for good measure. Alois kneecap too. Leaving them in dire condition. Giannis lopped another limb. Diego seeing it through. Mal mauled two more. Sigmar, a third. Solid hit from Seymore. And the last of the pack attacked. Which did save the Raiders the trouble of having to run them down. Val eviscerated a Vricolakus. Something I'm mainly familiar with from an old hunter campaign I ran. Though even there it was ultimately just a red herring. The Vricolakus, hailing from Greek mythology. Technically more vampire or ghoul than werewolf, but the Greek essentially fused the two, since they themselves drew inspiration from Slavic lore. I want to say that's where the concept of vampires turning into wolves came from. Essentially the blending of multiple mythologies over time. But someone would have to check me on that. I used to study it a bit more actively back when I was still running tabletop campaigns. But it has been a while. Haven't thrown dice going on like 10 years now, which is kind of a shame. But, you know, where would I even find the time? As an aside, that particular tabletop campaign, that adventure in particular, was actually about a ghost. It just happened to also be able to possess dogs. And there was essentially an X-Files wannabe federal agent who was convinced it was a Vricolakus. So once he found out there were other people also investigating this supernatural situation, that the head office wouldn't believe him about. He latched on to the players instead, you know, essentially just to confuse the entire situation. They bought into it at first, but obviously his plans to take it down didn't really pan out. I think he got hit by a dumpster, but I don't think he died. So in theory, he could have appeared again for future misadventures, had the campaign continued much beyond that. But yeah, so I studied Vrykolakas just for his particular patter, you know, to make it sound more convincing, to make the players wonder why I would know so much about them if it weren't actually what was going on. When in truth it was all an elaborate ruse, designed to lead them to their doom. But no, you know, honestly, generally speaking, the players were much more prone to leading themselves to their doom in that particular campaign. The duffel bag incident comes to mind. Anyway, we're done. With a whole passel of pelts for our trouble. That'll be more than enough to get us mantles for the rest of our armor. And while that did put us further west than I really wanted to be, let's push back east. I am really holding out hopes here that we will find our first trot. We'll follow this line of forests all the way out towards Tonder, then head west to Agerstead from there. Oh, hi, why did you not make a noise? Oh my goodness, oh geez, and we've got Rook Sideline too. Witch Hut. A skewed and withered hut that looks like it could collapse at any moment. Smoke is rising from an awry chimney. Alright, well, you know what? No, I can't. I've never done this one before, but I know it involves hex. So we do not want to do that without our bannerman. I will, however, cut this sojourn short. We've got to get those lungs patched. Because, while it may not be the wisest move, that is the next legendary location on our to-do list, so I would kind of like to do it. Baron Sorrel von Goswin counts the heads and then leans back. He shrugs. I thought they'd be scarier. You mentioned that they've but a slightly different effect on one's courage when still attached to the beastly torsos. The nobleman shrugs again. I suppose so, but my mother lost her head to an executioner's blade, and she looked all the scarier sitting in that basket, staring up at the world. You don't know what to say to that. You ask the man to pay you what you're owed. With another 2 skull on tap. Though we will hold off on that now that we have something else on our plate. Rook's lungs are patched. Which brings recovery down to just 1 day, so in theory we could go straight back. He would potentially be fully recovered by the time we got there. Alright, you know what? I think we're going to have to cut this one short. Ooh. Magnificent whip. -3 fatigue on a whip is pretty nice. Yes, we'll go ahead and cut this one short. We'll call it here. I'm going to go ahead and take care of some off-screen bookkeeping, prep our guys, move some things around, make sure we're as prepared as we can be for the fight ahead. And we will pick up here next time, as things once again get legendary, albeit a good bit sooner than I had anticipated. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Bowman, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.